everybody. Welcome to the Comments from the Peanut Gallery podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Kurtz. I'm here with a very special guest, my man, the Buzzsaw, George Martinez. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing very good. Thank you very much for taking the time. I do got to start this off and kick it off by saying, fuck the Patriots. You're wearing that shit on my show right here. It's kind of like a kick in the dick right away to start it. But
You're making it better,
my man, still love.
Hey, man, you got to have haters or you ain't shit.
That's the truth, man. So, George, real quick, why don't you let everybody out there know, where can they follow you online? Is there any sponsors that you want to shout out? Anything like that right away?
Yeah, of course, man. So, Facebook is my main thing. You can find me at George Buzzsaw Martinez. It's not many Buzzsaws out there, so if you click up Buzzsaw, you'll find me. My Instagram is going to be george.martinez.188. Follow me on there. And Twitter, I don't really fuck with Twitter, so there's no point. I do want to give a huge shout out to Huge and Davon, big sponsors of mine. I just found them my last fight, and they're taking really good care of us. As well as Hector's Cleaning Services. They've been there since the beginning of my career, sponsoring me. Endurance Roofing, a new sponsor I also just recently found. And a good shop, which is an auto shop. And if you ever need any car services, they're always down there and take good care of you.
What about management? Want to throw anything out there?
Yeah, for sure, man. Mike Hell's been my manager since I went pro, and he's been taking me to the top so far. He got me on a little streak going, fighting some tough opponents, getting my name out there. Texas, out here, New Mexico, so trying to keep that ball going, rolling, keep going, climbing up.
Definitely been working hard. I mean, it's no shortage of blood, sweat, and tears put in the room here at Factory X. That's for damn sure every single night. You mentioned having some good matchups, putting together a pretty solid string of wins. You're just coming off of a first round TKO finish. How's that feel?
Oh, it feels great. I mean, kind of wish I would have lasted a little longer, but we can't complain, out there collecting a paycheck at the end of the day, and that's what we're out there for, and enjoying doing what we do, having fun. This is what we do. We train to go have fun at the end of the day, so.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and then it has to help that you actually got to do it close to home this time, albeit a lot of adversity and the weigh-in process and all that, because for those of you who don't know, we've been having some pretty treacherous weather storms here in the wintertime in Colorado right now. So George had to definitely deal with the worst of that, trying to get through the stretch of Monument. So for those of you who know who've ever driven on I-25, they know that Monument on a snowy day is an absolute wreck to try to get through.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen so many broken down cars, accidents, spun outs. It was ridiculous. The 20-car pile up on I-25. Oh, God. Well, it used to be maybe 45 minute to an hour drive. Took 3.5 hours. So it was miserable. Plus cutting weight. I was just thankful it was a catch weight this time at 130, so...
Yeah, I'm sure not having to get that by.
Yeah. Oh, I would have been miserable.
I can only imagine what the mindset would have been, or how I just stirred like a just caged animal essentially at that point when you're in that weight cut brain and you're sitting in the car like that and you're not moving.
Yeah,
like
it sucks.
We had to experience that slightly, and I say we lightly in the sense that all I was there was driving and helping provide the transportation. But I was with Yolo and Austin for the trip over to the weigh-ins for LFA last month, and we had to sit through traffic for a little bit. And I just keep on hearing every couple of seconds from each direction of them in the car. Like just completely readjusting and just taking a deep breath in and out. And like, you good? Like, yeah, I'm good, I'm all right.
But we're really not.
So, I could only imagine having to be in the car for, 3.5 hours in that situation.
Oh, miserable.
We were only, so from here to Westminster, we're in Englewood right now. That's normally about no traffic, 25-30 minutes tops.
Yeah, not far at all.
It took us close to an hour, just from the traffic that was going on that day. So like, oh my God, like, can we just get these guys here as fast as we can for their sake, just so they can start getting some hydration back into them?
And on top
And
of
Yolo's
that,
crazy ass was gonna drive himself.
I know, I was gonna drive myself too.
It's like, shit, that is absolute.
Everybody
Yeah.
was at the fights and cornering and stuff, and I'm like, I told coaches like, who's driving? I was like, myself. No, you're not.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's see what I find. But luckily, my sister was able. She was gonna watch the fights too, but she took the time and sacrificed her time to come and help me drive, which I'm very thankful for.
That's good.
But yeah, I mean, and then on top of everything, we still waited another hour for commission, so it didn't really matter what time I got there, you know?
Dealing with the commission is
Always fun.
Always fun. We could just leave it at that. Spare any sort of future headaches by saying it's a fun interaction. You know,
for sure.
I'll just leave it out there that Thomas Denny may have pulled a slick one right in front of the commissioner's eyes that everybody in the room saw. But neither here nor there. Who's one to judge?
Yeah.
So what's next?
I'm just staying ready. Hopefully, we get some news here soon. I mean, I know he's working on a few fights that they offered him, but he hasn't given me any details just because he's trying to work out all the travel and all the pay and all that good stuff that I hire him for, doing his job.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, but he already informed me that there is a few fights that are cooking up, trying to just figure things out and minor
Sifting out the
details.
details, nice.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about this whole kind of, I guess, limbo or the predicament of where the 125 division is as far as the UFC is concerned, at least? Like, there hasn't been anything definitive that they've came out to say, yes, it's here to stay, no, it's not. They keep on booking fights. You have good showings from guys like Joe Benavidez to, So, I don't know, like, you being a fighter in that division, what's your thoughts? Like, what do you feel about that?
No, it's definitely like a bit heartbreaking, because that's ultimate, like your goal is to make it to that show, having your name on the biggest platform that there is to have it, and just knowing that what you're working for, now you have to do all these different changes and all these different tweaks. Now I have to try to gain weight possibly if they do take it out, I have to try to gain muscle and stuff, and it's kind of like a mind game at the same time where you want to figure out, like, I still want to pursue the same thing, it's just now a much harder obstacle to overcome, because I feel comfortable at 125 and I feel dominant at 125, and I go with 35ers here, and I mean, they're a good challenge for me, and I don't think I would be a bad 135er. I'm comfortable at 125, and yeah, like I said, it sucks. It sucks knowing that, there's that possibility that they can take it out. And yeah, there's alternative routes, there's other shows, where you could potentially still make a living off of fighting. And because that's basically what my objective is just be able to have a decent life doing something I love. Yeah. Without worrying or anything.
Well, I mean, you keep a pretty level head about your approach with it. I think that whatever direction it ends up going, you're going to be just fine with it. And I'll have to tell you too, you're very dynamic within your style. Like, you have solid wrestling, you have a lot of variation and different looks that you bring to striking. Trying to take pictures of you is a challenge. Let me just tell all you out there, I mean, my man's throwing like Kaipera kicks and spinning shit left and right. I'm trying to stay in focus, like, oh my god, like, where's he at? Like, he's in the frame 1 second, that he's not. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, man. Funny story is, I started doing all that because I couldn't do head kicks. I wasn't flexible back then when I first started. I had horrible hips, and I couldn't do head kicks. That was my problem. I didn't have no flexibility in my hips, and I was training with like Matt Manzanares at the time, and he was teaching me all these like crazy like back spinning heel kicks and stuff. And then Showtime came out at that time doing that kick, and I started learning that. And after that, I just kind of like was noticing that it was working for me, and it was landing, because it was like a surprise for everyone. Like, they weren't expecting it, and I was like, damn, well, I started like just messing around with different stuff, and whatever worked, and whatever didn't. And I do. I mean, I get it a lot that they, I have a crazy fighting style. It's unique. I don't think you can go to any gym and tell somebody to prepare you for me. Like, I don't think anybody has that same style that I have. And I'm always like evolving too. I'm always trying to find new crazy shit to surprise people with.
Your nickname is literally fitting in that sense. Like, it is, ladies and gentlemen out there listening, it is like a buzzsaw. You start seeing that spinning shit going left and right, bodies are flying, you might see assholes and elbows going every which direction, but it's fucking crazy to watch. But it's all, it's fun to see, a different mix into it, because your wrestling is good too. And, so because sometimes, like, you may, or these guys may be looking for that, well, that sets up your takedown, or that sets up, like, in your fight over the summer where you had the 10-finger choke. Right. Like, all of that, your dynamic ability as a striker just accentuates your ability as a grappler.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't comfortable in my stand-up, especially in the beginning. I came off of wrestling. I wrestled 2 years, and that's what I knew. That's all I knew. I was good at that. And if you go and look at my career, in my amateur careers, my first 7 or 8 fights, I literally would just take down and hold, and I would try all this crazy stuff in practice, but I never felt confident enough to do it. I never believed in myself. I never believed in my stand-up and stuff. And when I fought for I think it was my first title in Billings, Montana, for Fusion, I was fighting a wrestler, and he had beat me before wrestling, so I wanted to avoid all wrestling. Mm-hmm. And I dominated the whole fight, all 5 rounds standing up. Defended every takedown and just kept it standing up, busted him up, broke his nose. And ever since that day, like, that's what broke that unconfidence that I had. And I started working on my stand-up on each fight, Obviously, I mean, I like putting on a show and stuff and everything. But, I mean, if I have to just wrestle somebody because I know I'm going to win the fight, I'm going to do it. I'm also going to be smart about my decisions in fighting. And I'll please the crowd when I can, But at the end of the day, I gotta be selfish and do this for me and my people.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, just like you said, you hit the nail on the head. At the end of the day, you are a part of a team, and there is a collective aspect, but you're the one who gets locked in there.
I agree.
So you do have to satisfy some individual needs just to be able to survive, for that matter.
Right.
I mean, you have to. It's funny because now that we're starting to talk through some of these stories, you've had some pretty interesting things that you've had to go through at your fights, right? Because in Montana, you didn't have gloves. They didn't provide you with gloves or anything, right?
Oof. Yeah, that was a crazy fight. So the first time I fought that guy, it was a title fight that was declared at weigh-ins. Like, we all weighed in, and they're like, all right, this is a title fight. And it was 5 rounds, which originally was 3. So I trained for 3 rounds, not 5 rounds, and kind of got me off guard. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, let's do it. It's my first title shot ever, And we get there, we get to the venue, we start getting to the locker room and setting our stuff down, and they're talking about, hey, well, I need all the fighters down at the cage before the show starts. So we're like, okay, cool. We get there, we wait about 15 minutes. The show's about to start, and then they tell us, all right, well, we're going to do like a little mini face-off here in the front, like, so the crowd could see all the fighters and stuff, and this, and that. All right, yeah, sure, So blue corner's here, red corner's here. There's only about like 3 or 4 of the red corner, which was the home crowd people and stuff. And I'm looking across, I don't see my opponent. We were like the 3rd or 4th fight. So I was like, okay, well, all right. Must be in the bathroom, something must have happened, he might not be ready or whatever. I didn't really pay much attention to it until I realized we go back, one goes right away, fight 2 goes right away, 3 is first round. I think all 3 rounds, maybe 1 went to the second round, and after that it was all first rounds, like quick first rounds. So I'm barely, like, just finished jumping rope, like trying to get a little sweat on, and hey, George, you're on deck. Well, I haven't even warmed up. Like, what, like, can we get some time to warm up? Like, anything? It's like, my opponent wasn't out there, and I know why now. You know, he was obviously warming up because, sure enough, out there he had a good sweat going on already. You know, so they were like, "No, you're on deck. Let's go, let's go, let's go." Oh, okay, whatever. We're walking down the hallway. I don't got my gloves on because they said they were gonna provide gloves. We get almost to the cage, and they're like, "Hey, where are your gloves?" Well, I was never given any gloves, so I was waiting on my gloves. They're like, "Oh, God, okay, well, let's see what we can do." It's like, "Oh, God, I'm not going to wait for you guys." I ended up sending one of my corners, "Hey, go grab..." I always carry a pair of gloves for that same reason. I go grab my gloves from the bag, grab them, I'm taping them as I'm getting into the cage, you know, with athletic tape.
Yeah, with athletic tape.
Yeah.
Commission-based tape.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Not signed off or anything, you know. So if I ever sign them off, I tear the tape off, I'm in the cage, and at that point, my mind's just like, fuck, all right, I need to block everything out and just focus on my fight. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that, and he submitted me in the first round. So the promoter reached out to me and said, "Hey, I heard what happened, and this, and that, and I want to make it up to you." I was like, well, it's like, I don't think I want to fight for you anymore. Like, that's a lot that you made me go through, and like, as a fighter, I don't need to be experiencing all these other stress on top of what I'm already trying to deal with, you know, which is a fight, which is a big deal. And he was like, "All right, well, let me give you a rematch with this guy in 2 months for the title. I'll make sure you're well taken care of, and if we can't please you or satisfy you, you don't have to fight for us again." I was like, "All right, that's fine." Took the fight. Took a fight in between that gap against Angel Estrada from Edge in Colorado. And then I fought that guy and just completely dominated him for all 5 rounds. I was going for the kill, but man, this guy had a chin. I think there's like 3 or 4 knockdowns, and I just could not put him out.
A lot of heart.
Yeah, he had heart for sure, and he was undefeated. He was 5-0 or 6-0, you know, and he didn't want to lose, and I understand, but sometimes you just got to give those people their first loss, you know?
Yep, exactly. I got to ask you, with that, what was your thoughts on this last weekend's card? Obviously, shout out to Factory X, John Penn Martinez and King Cage got it done.
Yeah.
But in terms of, as a fan, seeing Anderson go out there for what a lot of people thought was going to be the swan song. A lot of people thought, and I think to a certain extent, and this, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe I'm just overanalyzing the situation, but the level of emotion that Anderson had at the weigh-in and the press conference and all that, it was almost like he knew that this could be the very last time, that he was almost about to be kind of that sacrificial lamb, or he was that old warrior that was about to take his last stand potentially. That he may be making this trip that he may not be returning from.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. My thoughts of that fight were that they were just pretty much feeding this new prospect to have his name out there. You beat Anderson Silva, everybody knows your name. And I mean, in my head, I'm thinking like, this is like new school versus old school, and this guy. It's Israel, right?
Israel Adesanya, yep, the last style.
Israel, his style is pretty unique too, and I honestly, I didn't think Anderson was going to be ready for the new evolved MMA, but I was really impressed with the fighting that they both did, and I thought it was going to, honestly, I think that was fight of the night for sure, and performance of the night as well for both fighters. There's so much emotion in that, that only people can dream to fight an icon that you look up to. Right. And it was an incredible fight, and I thought that should have been main event from the beginning, honestly. Yeah. So it was a really good fight. I wish it would have gone 5 rounds for sure. I wanted to see more of it.
They said that according to some of the MMA reports from a lot of the main outlets like Bisping and Chael and a lot of those, that was proposed to turn it to 5, and Israel was in, but Anderson at least from what I heard from those reports
about that
was
too.
that Anderson was not open for the 5 because he didn't sign on for the 5.
Right.
I said that I didn't train for 5. I'm 43 years old. I am not, I'm not conditioned for it or not ready for it. Something to that effect. Mm-hmm. But and then that being said too, you've got to up the ante as far as the money goes.
Oh, yeah.
Which is that where
That's where I heard the factor was at.
Right. So I don't think it was necessarily because Anderson is game as it gets.
Yeah.
And I think that he proved that by saying that, you know what, that's basically like, I know that you're a fan of basketball and everything too, so you've seen a lot of those montage clips of like the Jordan and the Kobe silhouettes, like doing the same exact movements, the same sequences,
the same stuff. Yeah,
there's all those sorts of things. If you go out there and if you look it up on YouTube or wherever you find your your media, Instagram, whatever, there's a lot of those that splice together the footage of Israel and Anderson. And it's so similar that it's mind-blowing because you're watching literally, it was a mirror match.
Yeah.
A mirror match was the best way that they could have possibly described that, and you saw that. And I think that that's kind of what helped, in my opinion, that's what helped Anderson in the end, was because he's so fluid with his movement and he's just so goddamn dynamic with the way that he can anticipate where strikes are coming from. They turned that into a K1 match with 4-ounce gloves, pretty much.
Yeah.
And his ability, he has, 14 years his senior, I think Anderson's 43 and Israel's 29. So 14 years worth of time and experience within battle. That was just something to where I don't know, like you probably can speak to it better than I can, but that instinct or that almost feeling like like as if you're that predator out there, you feel that energy that moves along, like your line where you pick up the energy, something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like Matrix shit. Like you're seeing it before it's coming.
It is. And, I mean, that's where your mind comes into game. That's where you got to think. You got to be your own biggest fan at the end of the day. That's what it is. You're, like we always say, if you don't have haters, you're not shit. Mm-hmm. You're nothing. Obviously, if you got haters, because you're doing something or you have something they want.
Right.
And I feel like at this point, I don't know if they were the favorites or if they were split even. Or I think Anderson was the underdog, huh?
Anderson was the dog by a lot, actually. The line was incredibly skewed. So I have a few buddies who do a lot of sports betting, and I told them, hey man, like there's a strong chance that he might get starched, but if you're looking for a potential good beat, that's a very bad line. Anderson Silva is not a 6-1 dog to anybody.
Wow. That's crazy. That's
at one
ridiculous.
point it for sure was like 4.5.
I don't even agree that it was a unanimous decision. I would have gave him maybe a split, but I definitely don't think it was a unanimous.
One of the judges scored one for him. So me personally, this is how I scored. First round, definitely Izzy. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
I gave the second round to Anderson personally.
Me too.
I thought that he won the second round. I think that especially when he caught him with that double jab, he stunned Izzy.
Yeah, I think he did more damage in the second round, and landed more, I think, too. So that third round was the toughest one, though. But I don't know. That third round was pretty even to me, but I think being a favorite, you also have an upper hand on all that type of shit,
It was pretty even overall, I feel like, in terms of like a lot of the exchanges, but if you're looking at the numbers from it, like the actual stat breakdown and seeing like if you're putting it to the most technical aspect and the points aspect, when you're seeing punches landed versus, everything in that regard, Izzy definitely was much more efficient at that point, and especially when you're just encompassing volume, because there were some of those where he was just peppering Anderson.
Yeah.
And Anderson was just sitting there and like, come on, hit me, and he ate it like 3 or 4 times intentionally.
He did.
But when you're looking at numbers at the end of the day on the stat sheet, you're seeing, well, that was 4 for 4 for punches thrown and punches landed.
True.
So I think that you have to take that into account when you're making that decision for him.
Yeah, I could see that, I still think maybe there should be some type of rule break for these judges at some point.
I just think there should be more, period.
Because you could maybe, someone can land 4 jabs, but someone can come over and land a vicious hook, that would do way more damage than those 4 jabs did. But the judges don't see that. They just see the 4 jabs. Oh, you landed 4-1.
Right.
No,
you're right.
So
you're absolutely right.
I mean, it sucks. It sucks not being able to leave it to the judges at sometimes. I've definitely been at the end of the wrong call a few times, and it definitely sucks. It sucks that you would put your career kind of in these people's hands to make the right decision, and can't always rely on them. I mean, there are some good judges, I think, but it's different, especially the ones that have never been in the cage.
Right. Well, that's the biggest part of it all, George, is you have people who just flat out at times have zero depth of experience within martial arts. You know, there's going to be a lot that have more of a background toward boxing, but even still, a lot of that is just from the observation end. That's not actually being in there.
Right.
That's not going and seeing, okay, well, in this point of these two fighters being on the ground for this two minutes and 20-some seconds, that's not seeing that, okay, that through that you went through about 3 different systems with 2 solid submission attempts that were close to a finishing point. But they're just looking at that, and they're basically they're seeing lay and pray or wrestle fuck or something like that, and not understanding what's going on. I feel like there was a couple of early stand-ups, especially like there was one of the points where they made a stand-up in the Montana De La Rosa fight.
And they were both being active.
It was like they were both very active on the ground. They were going through a lot of different positions, or at least moving through things. It's not like they were stalemate.
They weren't even settled. They were always moving and even throwing punches at the same time. I definitely thought that was a bad call of standing it up too.
Which, thankfully for Montana's sake, it didn't hurt her because she was able to secure another takedown and get right back to it. But in that situation, we've seen it in the past with other fights, though, where something gets stood up when it shouldn't have been,
it doesn't work
and
out
then
the
they end
same
up
way.
losing.
Right.
One of the most famous examples, obviously, being Tito.
Yep.
That it's just, I don't know. I disagree with that, but that's maybe me being a little bit more of a purist, being a fan of the grappling side of things, and having a little bit more of an understanding. By no means am I an expert. I'm just some guy who likes watching. But I watch a lot, and I am a fan of the technical aspects of it. I'm the guy who likes watching a defensive matchup in football. I like watching a pitcher's duel in baseball. I'm a fan of the true art of it.
Right, you're the detail guy, the things that people don't notice, And it's a good thing, because that's what a lot of people don't notice, is the small details, all the sacrifice. Like, people just think, like my last fight, I just got booed after I had won because they thought it was an early stoppage. Like, the difference is, if I had this guy on the ground and I was hitting him 27 uncalled for punches that he didn't defend at all, they would have stopped it. What difference does it do that he's standing up?
Well, what I offer to you in that sort of scenario, when people, bring or cry controversy with a finish or something like that, is people are quick to forget what put you in that position to begin with.
Right.
And I call a much higher profile example in terms of news and notoriety as of recent that everybody's still talking about with the Henry and the TJ stoppage. What the correlation in that instance is, yes, might it have been premature there, but you're forgetting the fact, most people who are critiquing that decision, that TJ was put on his face 3 times in that sequence.
Right.
And he himself has since even came out and said, hey, I wore that shot right behind the ear. My equilibrium was off. Yeah, I said I was good, but you weren't good enough to stand up and hold your ground and intelligently defend yourself without getting put down multiple times in succession.
Right.
Now, could that fight have been extended or let go on a little bit more? Absolutely. Not going to deny that, not going to refute that at all in the slightest. However, once again, what I offer to you is, how many more punches would he have taken in that sequence? How much more damage unnecessarily would he have taken within that barrage of ground and pound that Henry was just raining down at that point?
Right.
How much would he have gone through? But no, like I say, how much unnecessary damage would he have had to have taken in that time frame?
Yeah, I mean, like you said it, he was rocked. And a lot of people, like you say, don't pay attention to those little details, They don't see it from the fighter's perspective. Like, you talk to a lot of fighters, you have a good idea of what we go through and what we acknowledge in a fight, what our thinking process is. You talk to us before, after our fights, like you know more than the average person would,
Well,
So
I appreciate that. And I still don't know shit, people.
Not true. No, seriously though, like those little minor details that you pay attention to, it's a whole difference. Like, it's the whole new world almost, just knowing the facts of stuff, just being educated. It's life-changing. You'll see everything in a completely different world, Like, even take it from fighting. Like, I used to just go out there and fight. I never knew it was a game of chess, I never knew that if I threw a kick, you were going to kick me back. I never thought about it like that. I was like, I just want to hurt you. That was it, And now I'm way more, like, effective knowing, all right, well, let's see what their actions are from this, and that. And I think that's one of the main things that helped me evolve as a fighter, was knowing that it's a game of chess. There's a move to every move. Okay. You just got to know what move to play,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, let's peel the onion back a little bit. Let's take a layer off here. So how much within your style and your spirit of a fighter does culture play in for you? Not coming from here originally, making the move to Colorado, move to America in that sense. How much is all of that factored into your vision, your drive, your motivation, all of that?
Oh, yeah, it's been a rough road for sure. I never even saw fighting as an option or anything. I hardly even knew anything about it when I joined. But I came from a rough past. Like, I was born in Mexico and literally born there, as my mom moved us over to Atlanta, Georgia, because my dad was actually he was a drug trafficker, and my mom had seen it all and was kind of over that stuff, so she decided to try to get away from him. So we moved to Atlanta, Georgia. We were there for a solid 7 years before he found us again, so we had to make a move over to Denver. Moved over to Aurora first, and we stayed with some aunties. And just growing up, it was hard because it was just me and my sister that were taking care of each other. My mom was always working. She was working to provide for us, and it was rough just growing up. It was always the same. We were always just doing, me and my sister, and my mom I knew she was out working hard for us and whatnot, and then it was me and my sister that were just taking care of each other. My sister unfortunately got pregnant at 15, so they threw another, stab at her back with that. It was unplanned. Sorry.
Unplanned.
Yeah, it was unplanned. So it was a crazy story with her, and after that, it's like the attention was going towards her after that. So I'm in the background and I'm not getting acknowledged and stuff. So I'm about 13 at the time. So I ended up getting into the gangs after that. Because I wasn't getting the attention I wanted from the people I wanted, and this, and that. So started hanging out with some really, really bad people. And before you knew it, I just got jumped in. And being a gang member was one of the toughest things I've ever experienced. Like, I don't regret anything at any point, honestly, because I feel like everything that happened to me and that I did has made me who I am today, and like who I am today, I'm not ashamed of, But it was definitely a lot of tough lessons that were learned through that process. And I finally, got all my shit together at around 18 and decided that this wasn't for me. I need to become better, because at the end of the day, I was falling into the footsteps of my dad, which was what I didn't want to be, And yeah, like at 18, I started, looking for jobs, and I got into high school and I started playing football. Well, back when I was 15, I started playing football, but I played throughout high school. And my junior year is when I really, the wrestling coach was the JV coach of football. And he was always trying to get me to wrestle. He's like, yes, come wrestle, I'll help you in football, and this, and that. And like, just come try it. And I was like, nah, like that's not for me. Like, I don't think I'm gonna like being on another guy, and this, and that. All these excuses. to not do it until my junior year. He was like, hey, George, let me offer you something. You come, you train 1 week, you do 1 tournament. If you don't like it, I'll never bother you again. I was like, all right, bet, let's do it. We go, I wrestle, and I kind of half-assed it at the beginning, and then towards the end, I was like, I kind of got the gist of stuff, so I started working a little harder. Then tournament came, and I had the butterflies, and I was like, well, I don't know if I want to do this. This is a lot of pressure on me, and this is like an individual sport. Mm-hmm. Like there's no one but you going in there. And I went in there and I won my first 2 matches, and then I lost the second one. My third one, which was going to be for placing for first and second. So I ended up having to fight for third. I won third, and I got a cool little medal and stuff. And I was like, wow, this is cool. Like I was never rewarded for anything because I was always doing bad decisions and stuff. So it was like cool having a little reward. And I took that, and I was like, yeah, I was back on Monday again to train again, and didn't make it to state my junior year, but my senior year was a tough year. But I ended up making it through regionals, barely placing 6th in regional just to get into state. And then going into state, I was able to place 6th as well. But, oh, God, it was...
Yeah.
It was a journey for sure. So much emotions going those wrestling mats, and because I was a 2-year wrestler, going against people who's wrestled for 15 plus years,
Yeah.
And it was crazy to me. Like that's what got me really into it. Like I can beat these people who've been doing it this long. Like imagine if I only did it for as long as them.
Right.
And that's why I talked to my coach, and we're still really close and in touch. And I told him, like, I wish I would have listened to you and just done it since freshman year. Mm-hmm. I'm not a bad wrestler, but just imagine what I could have been with 2 more years of his knowledge and stuff, man. But, yep, so after that, I graduated 2013, and he was talking about, well, what are you going to do with your wrestling? Because that's when they were trying to take it out the Olympics and all that, yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I don't know. What is there to do with it? So he took me to a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym in Stapleton that Sean Stewart runs, an Angela swimmer at the time. And that's where I started my career. I started doing Jiu-Jitsu only, and it was awkward because it's kind of the opposite of wrestling. You never want to be on your back in wrestling, but in Jiu-Jitsu, you're the most comfortable on your back. So it was really hard, and it took a while to get used to that. And I started doing it for about 3 solid months. And then I met 2 fighters who were Tyler Sperlin, they call him Ginger, and pretty hair Matt Johnson, who fought on that LFA card. And then they took me on, and they were like, hey, man, well, you have some really good wrestling. Like, you should try out sparring. Sparring? What is that?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we just grab gear and we basically fight. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds fun. Let's do it. Oh boy, I got my ass kicked. Mm-hmm. I was going against like Matt. Like that's when Matt Manzanares was training, and he was training for that RFA fight when he fought that Brazilian junior something, tall as Brazilian. But he was one of the top 25ers at the time. And he was mainly the one always kicking my ass in there. And I went in there, and I was like, yeah, this is going to be easy. It's going to be cake. Went in the cage. Pop, 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 pop. Tried to shoot from way out nowhere. And it was a tough cookie to swallow for sure, because I thought I was in there. I was like, I find the streets. That's fine with me, They're not going to be nothing I haven't seen. But there definitely was. I've never been kicked in the face until then.
Yeah.
And it definitely sucked. But it was all learning experience. I mean, like I said, it's nothing that I regret, because all the ass whippings that I got were who made me what I am today, And I'm thankful for all the ass whippings that they gave me back there and here still.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure it has to... help build that heart meter, if you will. Bringing some video games into the equation. You see that big old heart meter in any of the fight games a lot of times.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I learned most of my moves were Dragon Ball Z. just kidding. I just gotta fly, and I'll be good. I'll be unstoppable if I learn how to fly. But
how much, so obviously, you mentioned being a fan, and I know just from knowing you that you're a big fan of it, but is that something that's always been a thing that you've been a fan since you were a kid?
Yeah.
Stuff like, Toonami, all the run, or just Dragon Ball Z, or what's your, I guess, choice of anime that way? Because we talked about Stylebender there. Obviously, he got his entire, Avatar and everything from anime.
Yeah. No, yeah, I grew up with it. I mean, I watched a whole bunch of different shows too, but that was my favorite one. That's what I looked up to. I always liked Goku, and then, once they started morphing and Gohan came and all those people came, and I was like, oh, this is like way better. Like, I need to learn everybody's move. And I started really looking at them, and I do kind of take some of their moves and apply them into my fighting style, and it's really hard to do, but if you do notice how they do little feints and stuff, and how they set up all these kicks, there's a little bit of mixed martial art that they put into the anime making portion of it.
Yeah.
And I do, and it's crazy. You see a lot of people who do watch anime, and you'll see a little bit of the anime that they watch into their fighting style every time. Every anime person that I've seen that watches the anime, that I've seen them fight, always I can tell which anime they're into or that they watch. But
That's crazy, because I'll be honest with you, man. I know next to nothing about the anime stuff. My brother used to watch it a lot, but that was always kind of a couple of years older. I'm a couple of years older, and he might have just been kind of that generational gap.
Maybe.
I don't know, because there's a lot of people my age who are fans.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I've been more of a fan now that I've gotten older, and becoming friends with all you guys, than I ever really was in the past of it. But I don't know, maybe it's just because I understand a little bit more the full spectrum of martial arts within it now.
Yeah.
Or I can pull away the values without feeding too much into the hoopla of I don't even know the right word to describe it within anime, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, because they do have some crazy stories at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we start to kind of come to an end here, we've been talking for a little bit. Is there anything else out there that you want to throw out to the crowd, or anybody out there that might be watching or listening?
No, I just want to thank everybody, all my fans. Nothing without my fans, all my support. I'm really grateful, and I really do appreciate every single one of you. I know sometimes so many of you guys, every once in a while I'll try to reach out to a few of you guys through social media, through text, whatever, but sometimes I just get overwhelmed with how many of you guys there is, and I'm very grateful for everybody who's out there supporting me and believing in me too, that I'm able to do this. I'm really grateful, because there was a time where I didn't even think I was going to do it, but yeah. I'm really grateful for everybody that is on my journey and coming through and continuing to be behind me on my journey. And thank you, Jordan, for
Sorry, folks. A little miscommunication within the facility here. Had the lights turned off on us for just a quick second there. But you were mentioning, just throwing out some shout outs to everybody out there listening right before the lights got cut off on us.
Oh yeah, that's about it. I want to thank you, Jordan. You've helped us a lot ever since I met you. You've been helping me and Selena out wherever you can, and really appreciate you having the time and doing what you do for us as well.
Well, I'm appreciative, man. I'm humbled to hear the kind words. Thank you. I thank all of you guys out there that have followed along with the project as well. But above all, I can't do anything or even start putting stuff out there without you guys being open to it. So I thank you for the opportunity, and for taking the time. You just got done with a training session tonight. I'm sure dead ass tired after a day of work and everything too. So staying late tonight, and even past us getting the light shut off on us. Thank you very much, George. Thank you, bro. I appreciate it, man.
Pleasure, anytime.
I just want to, from my side, throw a quick couple of shout-outs to some people out there. I want to throw a shout-out to Swahv from Lion League Music. For those of you who've been following along, Joey does a lot of the music that gets built into our content out there. He's been making a lot of moves across the board as a producer and just a content generator in general. He's worked with DJ Drama recently. He's bringing in Blueface for a show in Fort Collins in a couple of weeks.
Really?
Yes, so
That's cool.
I believe it's on March 1st. Just shout out to Cool and K too as well. He's going to be on the bill for the show. And I want to say thank you to Beyond Bridges. I know that they always do a tribute to my brother every time that they perform. So thank you guys for just keeping his memory alive. It's coming up on the 1 year mark, which it's something that weighs heavy on my heart every single day. It's something that is adversity that has to be adapted to and overcame. You can't change the past, but you could help write your future. And so for anybody out there who is ever struggling with any sort of unfortunate circumstance, death, loss, whatever it may be, don't be afraid to reach out to people. There's great people out there that want to see you do well. And if those people that you're spending the most time around don't want that, or if they're not encouraging the best for you, then you need to find a new circle, because you're doing yourself a disservice. Life is too short to go through being unhappy or having anything but the best for yourself. But the change has to start with you. So if you're not happy with where you're at, that change has to come from inside. And it may be something that takes a while for you to get to where you ultimately want to be, but nothing in this life that's worth having is easy. So I just want to part ways with that. If anybody out there ever needs that extra person, or you feel like you're just completely lost, the inboxes for direct messages are there on every single platform. There have been people that have reached out, and out of respect to them, I will absolutely keep you honest, but you guys are what keeps me going. Getting those messages from those of you out there who have sent me the love and the support, I thrive off of that. It kind of makes me emotional that people even reach out in that regard. But for those who have, thank you, and I will continue to return the favor. So thank you, George, again for taking the time. You can follow us along online at Comments from the Peanut Gallery on Instagram. Look us up at www.cftpg.com. You can check our merchandise for all of your fall and winter needs. That collection is up, as well as we still have all of the summer gear up from this last season. There's going to be some new merch that's out coming in the next few. The first one I'm giving a little shout or a little rub on that. George also was the winner of our photo contest, so keep following with us along online. We do like to keep up with the fan engagement, like having a lot of these guys in the mix, doing fighter takeovers, all of that. So thank you for all the support out there, and this is Jordan Kurtz from Comments from the Peanut Gallery, along with George the Buzzsaw Martinez of